I'm in beautiful downtown Santa Cruz, California. I'm going to try to get some interviews down here on people's opinion of exploding poverty in America and what they think maybe the causes are and what perhaps they think these solutions may be. So, let's see. All right, brother. Well, listen, I just wanted to get some opinions here in downtown Santa Cruz, beautiful downtown Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful day, isn't it? What is this? Today's November 15th,
Something like that, yeah.
something like that. Okay, 2013. And, I'm really concerned about exploding poverty in America. And I'm investigating people's thoughts and opinions on what might have caused it. Because we know the effect is all this increasing poverty, destitution in droves, and what the solutions might be. So what do you think, first of all, what do you think might have caused it?
So, well, greed for one thing. I think that the erosion of our industrial base is a big part of that. For a long time, people wanted things cheaper, so we started exporting jobs overseas, and we got things cheaper, but at the cost of people being able to actually make a living for their family. And it just slowly, over the last 30, 40 years, it's just been peeling off, the middle class. And you see more and more people homeless, struggling. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you there, brother. Do you ever think about monopolies?
Yeah.
How they just, they keep on.
Growing.
Yeah, they keep growing, and mom and pop entrepreneurial spirit of the country keeps dying, it seems like, except for a few branches like farmers markets may be
Sure.
a good example of
Well,
getting away from the system.
I'm actually glad you touched on that, because when you start thinking about something as absurd as farm subsidies that go to big agribusiness and don't actually even go to small family farmers that are struggling to, make it.
Right.
There's one symptom right there.
Now, have you ever thought about the Federal Reserve Bank, that the issuance of currency and the fact that this private group of people, under the auspices of being a federal governmental agency, which is no more federal than Federal Express Delivery Service,
Sure.
but they own the copyright to this magic, and they are the mother of all monopolies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
When JFK tried to introduce competing currency, for example, the silver certificates, oh no, that's the mortal sin that most researchers believe really got him killed. I mean, he was against the wars in Indochina and whatnot, but he really wanted America to have sound currency, which means your currency in a true capitalist, free market, supply and demand-based economy would do nothing but increase in value. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
Because of supply and demand, we find better and better methods for increasing our supply, so we end up with this oversupply, which means it's a rising tide of prosperity that should, if we had a natural
As
market,
Kennedy said, lift
all
all boats.
ships. Exactly. But these banksters overextended themselves intentionally, dumped all this currency on us, and knew what they were doing. They were wrecking it up. They were increasing the disparity between housing and housing. We don't have any checks and balances. Nobody's feet is held to the fire to be accountable.
No one goes to jail.
No one goes to jail. There's no checks and balances to ensure a standard of living, because that's what sound currency for sure would protect, is that this is the minimum standard of living, which was reset some time ago during the New Deal, and the minimum wage came in. It's all about preventing slavery and everything.
Yeah.
But we slowly legitimized slavery, I believe, by not keeping minimum wage in line with the true inflation.
It's supposed to be like
So that would be a
$20
check
an
and
hour
balance.
if it were to keep pace
Oh,
with
it'd be way
inflation,
more than
something
that,
like
probably.
Something.
$1.25 was minimum wage in '63 right here in Santa Cruz. You could buy a house. Everybody had dignity. No matter what job you had, it was seen as important.
Yeah.
And look how far we've fallen. I mean, how much money? I mean, you need like about $40 an hour or something to be able to buy a house in
Yeah,
Santa Cruz.
easily. Yeah, you'd have to in Santa Cruz for sure.
And so we have a shrinking percentage of homeowners. In fact, California reached a minority of homeowners just recently in the last few years. I believe it's the first state in the union to do that. So in other words, a majority of California residents are renters and without any hope of ever being an owner of a house. And it just keeps on in decline,
Sure.
But so what do you see as the solutions personally?
So I mean, personally, I see a more beefed up socialism sort of structure, like we were going, starting to have with like the New Deal.
Now,
and it's been-
compared to like socialism, say in China, or
no, not that type of socialism.
right, not with the Big
I was thinking-
Brother
I was thinking like more
dictatorship.
European style. Yeah.
Yeah, where
bigger
the
social
wealth
safety.
is shared.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I could really relate to that in terms of I'm an idealist, and I want things perfect. I don't want to compromise for any man.
Sure, sure.
So my attitude is personally about economics. At birth, they had to just hand our mothers our share in the planet. So in other words, our paradigm, our reality, monetarily speaking, is set in stone from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
Because then we got a level playing field. We're all trillionaires, and we serve one another for one reason only, because we darn well want to, and nothing's going to stop us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you ever
I
go
do.
by these voluntary work sites like Habitat for Humanity or the local soup kitchen, you find all these people. So people that tell you you can't work, people won't work, they'll all be lazy and self-serving. It's just not true. We have an instinct to want to serve each other and use our talents to uplift humanity.
May I add this? So like I look at like the nonprofit like type of structure, like for like nonprofits and things like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I think more of that is kind of the future. I mean, if you really want to take care of people and you really want people to succeed, it's kind of there's incentive for people to do a little bit better than the just based on what your skill set is and everything.
Absolutely, and the system hates that kind of stuff.
of course it does.
They absolutely do, because it really flies in the face of all. I mean, the only way we can believe things have to get worse and worse and worse for people is that the slaves need to be whipped into place. You know what I mean? We've got to keep you hungry, to keep you innovative, and all this crap. I've studied the courses, economics and real estate and all this
Sure.
crap. That's their attitude. Well, we keep the public hungry and all this because it spurs innovation. So that's their only argument. But it's like, what innovation do we need? The more innovation we get, the poorer people seem to become. So what good is this? It's tyranny, and the amount that we're going to receive is the amount we accept. I think it was Thomas Jefferson that said that the exact amount of tyranny you live under is what you accept. And they're doing it through money.
Yeah.
It's like a god, like Jesus talked about, the root of all evil.
Yep.
So we've got to wean ourselves off it if we're going to have heaven on earth, which is, I believe, what's coming. I'm very optimistic about the whole thing Jesus taught being true. And that if that's what we, the decent, righteous, upright people, that hunger and thirst for righteousness have to look forward to, is very beautiful. It's a very beautiful world, and money has no role. So we've got to figure this out, each individually and corporately, because we share ideas about how we can get there. But I know one thing for sure, in my studies, we need sound currency at least.
For sure.
That would be a way to gradually, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is that we understand it's good to pay low prices and lower. That way you get to save more of your income. Everybody does. And that's the rising tide of prosperity that lifts all ships. And then sometimes these people will argue, we'd wreck the climate, like Obama's over in Africa telling them, you'll never own cars, don't ever get your hopes up, you're not going to have air conditioning, it'll ruin the planet and all this crap. And, there's all this suppressed clean technology out there.
Yep.
Look into
And
what
they're
Bob
suppressing it.
Lazar. You ever heard of a guy named Bob Lazar? He's a scientist. He specializes in propulsion systems. Okay, he's a nuclear physicist specializing in propulsion systems. He's turned his Corvette into using hydrogen, and he makes his own hydrogen, and he puts it in the car. The guy goes 750 miles on enough tanks of hydrogen before he uses any gasoline in the car. This is just a regular little guy.
Right.
But this technology could be made massive. We could all be doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
For sure.
That, and it's safe. It's totally safe. It's not like driving around bombed or anything. That's all those lies are lies.
Yep.
I mean, they just don't want us off the. If we solve the problems, they'll be rendered irrelevant. You know what I'm saying?
Great.
And that's the whole thing. And did you know from the 70s, Jimmy Carter, he went up to rationing gasoline because the oil companies were citing a shortage. And it was ingenious. He called their bluff and said, okay, we're not just going to jack up prices, because that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
He knew there was no shortage. And what he did was he just went to rationing. And within 2 weeks it was gone, because the rich had to wait in line with the poor. And they said, screw this, you know what I mean?
And they scorched the earth underneath
So
them.
the prices didn't go through the roof. They stayed stable, maybe went up a penny or two. It was like 39 cents a gallon back then or something.
Right.
I was driving at 16. And but today, and that went on into the 90s. A 55,
I remember it, yeah.
he instilled it, right, a 55 mile an hour speed limit across the nation. You remember that? Even into the 90s. Now, Now that Al Gore says that we're destroying the earth with CO2, okay, now we've got this 65, 70, I'm not saying that I want to lower speed. I'm just making a point.
Right.
Because I've got my share of speeding tickets. Under the basic speed law, you can speed, if it's safe. But, sometimes it's not safe to drive the posted speed. I'm all about safe driving, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It's just, the point is that, with the environment and all, it seems like, wow, we're going to destroy the earth if we don't, and we could save millions. California alone uses 30 million gallons of gas a day. And so if we could reduce that by 5%, that's millions of gallons of gasoline. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And yet there's no discussion. The mainstream media is not touching that.
Well, they're owned by the
So
corporations, man.
that's the propaganda, the stuff they don't touch on. They never talk about the cause and effect of poverty. For instance, crimes of economic desperation, financial desperation. How many guys and gals are sitting in prison? I mean, gals, it could be things like prostitution.
Sure.
I mean, how many women would prostitute their bodies if they weren't insecure financially, in fear?
Yeah, for real.
It's a form of fear. So we're all walking around in this form of fear that's been imposed on
You
us.
might say we're all kind of
foisted on us.
prostitutes.
Absolutely, we're all using money.
And-
I mean, I feel like a hypocrite, but at least I know my heart, and I'm ready. I'll lay it all down tomorrow. But we have to do it in unison. It can't be this group has an advantage, this group doesn't. You know what I
Sure.
mean? It's got to be understood that the only answer is universal prosperity. That we're born God's children, equal, none more precious than another. The most we can ever really own is the love of God, and that's our reality. You know what I mean? And that we serve one another because we love to, we want to be appreciated, we want to be useful.
Sure.
You can relate to that, can't you?
I can, and thank you so much for what you're doing, my friend.
Thank you, my
Yeah.
friend. It was very
It
nice
was
to talk to you,
you as
brother.
well.
What's your name?
Peter.
Peter.
Yep.
Chris.
Chris,
Great
thank
to
you
meet
so much for what
Peter.
you're doing out here.
God bless you, brother.
Have a great day.
Hey, you too, man.